Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. Investigators from the Ukrainian National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office are reported to have launched a search of the office of Andriy Yermak, head of the president's office. The search comes at a precarious moment for President Vladimir Zelenskyy, under pressure from the United States to accept a peace plan seen as favoring Russia. Yermak is under investigation by the anti-corruption agencies in a case involving corruption in Energoatom, the largest nuclear power operator in Ukraine. Dubbed Operation Midas, the investigation revealed what is believed to be the biggest corruption scandal of Zelenskyy's presidency and was followed by the Ukrainian leader's pledge for a cleanup and reboot of the state-run nuclear power operator. So far, 8 suspects have been charged in the case. Belgian Prime Minister Bart has reportedly told the European Commission that rushing through the EU's plan to use frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine would endanger a potential peace deal. The Financial Times reports that De Wever has warned European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen against rushing a plan to use frozen Russian assets to fund a €140 billion reparations loan. He argues that moving too quickly could hinder a future peace deal. The EU froze Russian state assets after the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Most are held by Belgian-based Euroclear, which fears Russian legal retaliation. European leaders will debate the loan next month as a US peace initiative gains traction. De Wever says Belgium will back the plan only if EU member states give Euroclear binding, unconditional guarantees covering the €185 billion it holds, with commitments finalized before the December summit in Brussels. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Friday to discuss crude and gas supplies for Hungary and peace efforts in Ukraine. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has announced he is heading to Moscow to ensure that Hungary's energy supply is secured for the winter and next year. When asked if peace efforts in Ukraine would also be on the agenda, Orbán said, "We can hardly avoid that." The Prime Minister has maintained close relations with Moscow despite the war in neighbouring Ukraine, and Hungary is still largely reliant on Russian energy despite European Union efforts to cut its dependence. Vladimir Putin has doubled down on his demands for Ukrainian territory. As peace efforts intensified, the Russian leader told reporters that he would only be ready to end the war in Ukraine if Kyiv withdraws from the entire Donbass and hands the territory controls there to Russia.
Putin has said that if Ukraine does not cede the eastern industrial territories of Donetsk and Luhansk, which together make up what's called the Donbass, Russia will continue fighting and seize them with force. Moscow has been trying to capture that area since 2014 and has suffered significant losses for each push forward since. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy, who spoke following Putin's remarks, said that Russia scorned efforts to end the war. Next week, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will travel to Moscow to continue negotiating with Russian officials. Witkoff might be joined in Russia by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, according to the White House.
According to unofficial information acquired by Polish media, 3 Polish defence companies will benefit from the European Safe Loan Scheme. Huta Stalowa, Wola Steelworks, WB Group and ICEI are said to be placed on the programme's shortlist. Our defence correspondent Zuzanna Jurek has this report.
€43.7 billion. That is how much Poland is set to benefit from the EU's Security Action for Europe or Safe Loan Mechanism. With the money lined up, the Polish Defence Ministry had to decide exactly on how to spend it.
A lot of what we will focus on is related to the East Shield. The East Shield is a European project. The development of drone and anti-drone systems is a priority.
This is poised to include the partially state-owned Huta Stalowa Wola, the producer of the Borsuk infantry fighting vehicle.
Borsuk will replace the old BWP-1, i.e. post-Soviet equipment largely donated to Ukraine as part of our military support to Kyiv. And this equipment must be replaced with modern Borsuk combat vehicles. We need nearly 1,500 units. At present, we have ordered 111 such vehicles.
The Polish drone and anti-drone systems manufacturer WB Group also appeared on the shortlist of alleged beneficiaries. TVP World sources could not confirm the details yet, but suggested that the reports are not unfounded, particularly as the manufacturer participates in a number of flagship defense projects, including on the eastern border.
You can find our sensor systems, which is existing there, which is in use each day. It is a system called AMSTA, which is delivering information about the entrance from the neighboring countryside, not only by humans, but also, for example, by unmanned platforms. We can deliver such information to the user. We can collect this information and create, together with this, a kind of a wall.
Finally, the Polish satellite producer based in Finland, ICEYE, is also speculated to be among the selected contractors, particularly as experts note.
Reconnaissance from the air, from space, because all long-range strike systems such as HIMARS, HOMAR-K, Chunmo and all other long-range systems used by the Polish army require so-called targeting. This means the ability to designate targets in near real time.
And while about 90% of the projects are to be carried out at home,
these projects will be carried out as individual tasks, but in large part, about 20, will be conducted with other countries.
which means good news not just for Polish manufacturers.
If you think about the industry, defense industry is very fragmented today. And the whole idea is to kind of pull together the demand by joint procurement, maybe from one or two suppliers in the supply chain, the European supply chain, European local content, and get less of fragmentation, more integration, more interoperability.
When asked for a quote, some of the individual companies indicated they would not be able to comment until Friday afternoon. With the deadline for presenting a list of projects to the European Commission scheduled for the end of the month, it can be expected that the beneficiaries will be revealed imminently. For TVP World, Zuzanna Jurek.
Anti-government protesters remained defiant on Thursday night ahead of the first anniversary of the ruling Georgian Dreams Party announcement it was halting talks on joining the European Union. The move triggered waves of demonstrations across the country that have been met with mass arrests, police violence and a widening crackdown on dissent. Demonstrations have continued despite a concerted effort by the government to curb the movement through laws targeting protesters. After fines failed to quell the protests, new rules were introduced to punish participants who wore face masks or blocked roads by detaining them for up to 15 days. A number of opposition leaders have been jailed or are facing criminal charges, which opponents say they are politically motivated. Critics say the crackdown mirrors laws enforced in Russia, where dissent has been stifled. French lawmakers have urged President Emmanuel Macron to reject the Mercosur trade partnership deal with South America. Poland is also one of the staunchest opponents of the deal. What are the chances that Paris effectively blocks the controversial agreement? Alex Cadier reports from Brussels.
It's the EU's big cows for cars trade deal with 5 South American countries. It's been 25 years in the making. It may just be a few weeks away from crossing the finish line. The free trade deal removes duties on 91% of exports from the EU to Mercosur over 15 years. The EU will progressively remove duties on 92% of Mercosur exports over 10 years. To protect European farmers, the amount of sensitive farm products like poultry and pork going from Mercosur to the EU will be capped. European farmers aren't happy. From Warsaw to Paris, they've been protesting for months, warning that cheap South American products flooding into Europe could completely collapse their businesses. Experts say the deal will be good for Europe as a whole.
Any concerns about that we would be overwhelmed by Brazilian products are totally taken, I think, out of the blue. Of course, there are certainly for consumers, the positive sides is that I think about oilseeds, about sugar, cane sugar, about other commodities products will come into the European market. But anyway, these are for us the cheaper products.
Ursula von der Leyen's Commission has offered new safeguards to Europe's farmers, which would kick in if Mercosur imports drive down European prices. A vote on these will go to Parliament on December 16th. She wants to get the European Parliament and member states on board before December 20th, when she heads to Brazil, hoping to sign off on a quarter century of negotiations. But 2 EU countries may still rain on her parade.
Not much happens in the European Union when 2 large countries, such as France and Poland, are in opposition to such an important deal.
While Poland firmly rejects the deal, one man's ambiguity could still make the difference. If the French president decides to block it, it could slash the EU's hopes of a Christmas Mercosur miracle. And President Macron is under pressure. The French parliament has just passed a resolution urging him to block Mercosur. A deal without Poland and France seems unlikely, but Polish officials here in Brussels tell me it's a done deal. The French say it's too soon to tell. After 25 years of negotiation, it will all be decided in the next 3 weeks. In Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier for TVP World.
Pope Leo held talks with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan during his first trip outside Italy as pontiff on Thursday. He began a day of events in Ankara where he was welcomed by Turkish officials and visited the mausoleum of modern Turkey's founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. The pontiff laid a wreath at Atatürk's tomb before being greeted with an official ceremony at the presidential palace. In a speech, Leo said the world was seeing a heightened level of conflict and urged countries to work together for peace and to fight against hunger and poverty. The visit to Turkey is the first leg of a trip that will also take the first U.S. Pope to Lebanon. President Donald Trump says the United States will soon expand efforts to tackle Venezuelan drug trafficking by intensifying operations on land following what the U.S. leader described as major progress in stopping narcotics shipments by sea. Tensions between Washington and Caracas have escalated in recent months amid increased U.S. operations in the Caribbean targeting alleged drug trafficking vessels.
And in recent weeks, you've been working to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers, of which there are many. Of course, there aren't too many coming in by sea anymore, if you probably noticed that, from sending their poisons into the United States, where they kill hundreds of thousands of people a year. But we're going to take care of that situation. We're already doing a lot. We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that. People aren't wanting to be delivering by sea. And we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warn them, stop sending poison to our country.
As search operations following the Hong Kong residential complex fire continue, local residents and family members of the Wong Fuk complex tenants have been asked to help identify bodies of the victims. So far, over 90 people have been confirmed dead, but hundreds are still considered missing.
Just recognize some picture is in maybe my body's of my dad, because my body is still missing here. I'm not sure what the division here and the people helping here, so many here to help. But I don't feel it's helpful and effective and functional and productive. You came inside to identify many bodies and remind me to cover my face.
Being rational means there's no hope. Hope is just something the heart clings to. Hope is actually an illusion, but the bodies still have to be found, right? Let me see if they found them. Later, I'll go to the school to ask. It's just too heart-wrenching. When it involves people you know, it's even more painful. Honestly, with this kind of news, it hurts so much that I can't bear to watch or to know. But if I don't watch, I also won't know. That's just how it is.
And that's all for World News. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.